Are all your videos starting to look the same? Do you find yourself leaning back on the same techniques, skills, and equipment that you kind of always use, the same bag of tricks? Filmmaking for many of us is a job, and it's hard to get outside of that mindset of just looking for a paycheck and clocking in and clocking out. We owe it to ourselves and to the work to go a little bit further. It's also going to be the best way that you can develop your professional career. I think the work is just going to improve across the board if you can take some of this mentality in. So with that said, I'm going to give you my top 5 tips for improving your filmmaking. So I am Remsy. I'm a professional filmmaker, photographer, and visual artist. This channel is all about the art and business of creative projects, how to nurture them, grow them, and improve yourself as a creative. If you have any particular things you want to learn about or talk about, drop something in the comments, add a like, really appreciate it. It's a new channel and I'm trying to grow it. Okay, so number 1, find new clients. Well, am I saying you should leave all your clients tomorrow? No, of course not. You've probably spent years building these relationships and they're really important. But I think we also have to accept that sometimes the work that we do every day can limit us. We fall into the routines and habits over months and years of the work that we're doing, and you get comfortable. You know, you're making some money and that's great. Maybe you buy some new equipment and that's really cool too. It's easy to forget about what brought us here in the first place. So I think it helps to just constantly re-engage with those ideas, and a lot of times that means finding new work. You probably find yourself shooting a lot of interviews, a lot of B-roll, and you feel stagnant from it. You know how to do the one-person camera, audio, lighting, interview, amazing. But I would really encourage you to just step outside of the box, maybe even you're paying work with your clients, and don't be afraid to try something new. A lot of this video is going to be about ways that you can find new types of work, and I think the first way to do that is to step beyond what's giving you a paycheck right now, reinvest in yourself and the work that you want to do. And I think this is a great tip for professional creatives, filmmakers, or otherwise, because we honestly can be treated as a commodity. No one else is going to be responsible for your creative development and your career development more than you. My second tip is ditch the gear. The business of technology is bigger than it has ever been. And with filmmaking tools, I think we see that especially. There's new cameras every month, every year. We're being told that what we have is bad, obsolete, not good enough. And you're like, how can I compete with that? But the reality is the equipment is such a small factor. Occasional project, you want a really nice camera or a really nice microphone. If it's in service of the creativity and you have the resources, by all means. If you look online, you'll see a lot of people now are going with the 4:3 aspect ratio. Analog is having a huge resurgence with film and old school mediums. So there's a lot of maybe old tools that you can look at that can give you some cool perspective. Yes, it does cost money, of course, to get any piece of equipment, but rather than going and spending $8,000 to $10,000 and buying yourself a new camera, especially if you don't have the clients or the work that are already backing it up, maybe spend a little bit less for a few $100s. Maybe you can get a Super 8 camera. You can try and get a little money to shoot on film. That's one way that I differentiated a lot of my work with a more DIY, lo-fi feeling. The film that we did, we shot about a third of it on 16mm, and just that aesthetic is awesome. It kind of takes you back, totally different way of working. Now, shooting on film isn't necessarily inexpensive, but what can you do on your phone? What's a unique story that you can only tell using your iPhone, or maybe you get one little wide angle lens for it. And if you're doing professional work for clients, let's say you are shooting an interview or doing some B-roll, you can get a lot of mileage out of a mirrorless camera. Home Depot is basically a DIY lighting store. The idea that you can go get anything you want is in and of itself a crutch. Limitations for creativity are where you're going to do your best work. Tip number 3, work on your pitch. We know that writing and idea development is one of the most important things. So I have some other videos about how you can develop ideas and you can try something new, maybe build some new skills around it. But I think that working on your pitch helps in a lot of ways. For one, it will help you understand the unique value. Maybe you're a cinematographer and that's all you want to do, and that's great. In that case, I would say you want to really network with the directors and producers who would be hiring you to do work. You kind of have to know how to reach those people. You have to know what they're looking for and maybe tailor what you're doing around that. Same thing if you're a director or just a sort of one-person operation. You want to find people who are going to have that particular need. So finding the way that you can sell yourself is really important. And it's not just about posting photos on Instagram. Doing research into the companies in your area that are doing production work, seeing what kind of stuff works for them, and honestly just trying to find out who the clients maybe in your area are. Advertising and marketing companies are a lot of times making the spots for the companies, like the ads that you see. So if you deliver a spec project right at somebody's feet and it's a really good idea, they might actually be willing to go and produce it for real. Originality is key. A mood board, an inspiration deck for yourself, building up some references and just doing research on what's out there is going to be really important and very helpful. Lastly on this, I would just say don't be afraid to reach out. You lean into a new type of self-confidence around your artistic abilities. So don't be afraid to reach out to potential partners, collaborators, companies, brands, advertisers, ad agencies, marketing companies. I mean, the list of people that you could be reaching out to is huge. Anyone who you can collaborate with on a project, message them, send them an email, reach out to them on their site, figure out what they're working on. People actually appreciate that. Everybody likes getting something inbound. It makes them feel like what they're doing is working because people are seeing them and want to interact with them. So find people around you who might be interested in collaborating. And yeah, if you're just getting started out with a concept or pitching ideas, maybe you're not going to make a ton of money on this one, but it's a great way to build a portfolio of work that's more in line with what you really want to be doing. Tip 4 to shake things up, try different mediums and formats. Filmmaking actually originated on celluloid. I think everybody should have the experience of at least trying that. If you're in film schools, I think maybe some of them still do that, but not even a lot there. There are amazing resources online about how you can do this, and obviously it's having a surge in popularity with things like Instagram. Everybody likes that retro look. But I would say that beyond just the technical aspect of it, it's really a different way of thinking. It's a different way of working. You have to be a lot more thoughtful, pre-planned, and conservative in terms of how you're going to be executing your shoot. And those constraints, like all creative constraints, can make some really magical work. Don't be afraid to experiment with different aspect ratios or formats, shorter things, longer things, ways to do creative, unique work that meets a different format, maybe that uses some different techniques, could use still photos. There's so many different filmmaking techniques and artistic ways to communicate an idea out there. Don't overlook any of them. My last filmmaking tip is don't forget about the power of the edit. There's so much you can do in mashing things up, especially if you had an idea that you started with and you made it. Maybe it isn't hitting quite the way that you want and you're ready to just move on. Sometimes it is helpful to finish things. I definitely believe that finishing things and moving on is very important, but I also think that you can find from sound, from color, doing a little VFX, there's so many worlds out there to be able to improve things after the fact that you don't want to overlook that just because you're in a hurry to get things finished. My creative loop is develop, create, evaluate, and just sort of move right on. And I do usually do that, but I think that for certain projects, going deep in the edit can be cool. Maybe you do picture in picture. Maybe it is going into After Effects and doing some cool atmospheric texturing kind of stuff. I think that clients actually appreciate thinking outside the box. Even if this doesn't hit for them, they're gonna think, oh, here's someone who isn't afraid to change things up. I think they will appreciate the level of work that you put into it, and also you'll probably unlock some new skills. These are just 5 quick things that I like to do for myself. Maybe they'll be useful for you. Maybe there's other things that you do. Feel free to drop in the comments what works best for you. And I think I'm going to continue to revisit this when I see what you're talking about. Maybe I'll try out some new things. And also my mindset on this changes, on an almost weekly basis. We're always exploring new ways to be creative. Always remember that your creative voice is important. There's room for it. And there are people who need to hear your story. Thanks for watching.